From Montgomery to Hill, Greene County and Perry, it's Portia taking on the Blackbelt, and she ain't scared. Marengo County, something county, Will, Cops, and Barber. Interviewing everybody, sister, brothers, and mamas. It's Portia.
Coming in every week. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so before we get started, you guys already know, I have to pay the bill. So we're going to hire myself and come back, and then we'll get straight to the show. Located in downtown Demopolis, a proven leader in law in the Blackbelt, Gibbs and Sellers.
Hello, citizens. My name is Christopher Jones. I'm seeking mayor's office for the great city of Uniontown. For the last 7 years, I've attended city council meetings, spoken with people across the city. I have heard the concerns and have personally seen where improvements need to be made in order for us to move our city forward. As your mayor, I am willing to build a strong local economy, increase youth development, and build solid and sustainable state and federal relationships to aid us in our start of rebuilding our community. Uniontown, it's time for a change. On August 25th, vote for Christopher Jones, the right voice, right now. Paid political advertising to elect Christopher Jones, P.O. Box 1281, Uniontown, Alabama.
Everybody, thank y'all so much for tuning in. We appreciate our sponsors. The sponsors of Portia Takes on the Blackbelt has nothing to do with any guests that I have on my show. They don't endorse anybody. They're not supporting anyone. They're just a guest on my show. But the sponsors are sponsors of Portia Takes on the Blackbelt for so many episodes. And we appreciate you guys for your continuing support. All right, so Miss Edna Williams, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, Miss Edna. Good evening. Even though you didn't give me a sausage and biscuit the other morning. Hey, Miss Rose, thank you so much for tuning in each week. I appreciate you so much for your continued support. Who's that? Marvin. Marvin said episode for single. Yes, Marvin. This is a conversation that we got to have. Us single people, especially being on the dating scene with all these STDs that's out there, we need to know what's going on. So share this video so we can have. So I guess tonight, let me tell you how I met my guest. It's interesting. Y'all hear laughing in the background. My sister-in-law, my brother Eric's wife, I had them on the show. And they were talking about being safe online and keeping your kids safe online. And so we appreciate them for coming on. And so she shared the show. She talked about the show, and she said, "You got to talk to Miss Shelia. You got to talk to Miss Shelia. You got to talk to Miss Shelia." So I said, okay. I said, well, I tell you what, I said, I tell her I'm going to call her. I would like her to come on the show on Tuesday and go from there. And when I talked to her on the phone instantly, just like we were late tonight coming on because but that's the personality that she has, and she's passionate about her work. She's been in prevention education. She's been in the public, working from working with the city of Cleveland all the way to her personal business as well. What it is that she do for the community. And we're very appreciative and very humble and honored tonight that she has taken her time from all the way from the state of Ohio to talk to our audience about this pandemic, not COVID, but STDs. And this is a conversation that we haven't had on our show, and I feel like it is. And I want you guys to share this video and stay in this conversation because this is something that we need to discuss in our community. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Miss Shelia Sullivan. We're going to bring on. It's a little slow. There you
It's
go.
okay. It's okay.
That's okay. That's okay. How are you, Miss
Thanks
Shelia?
for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for joining us. We got a couple of hellos. Miss Lorinda Stone said, "I'm so happy to hear you. Glad you have sponsors." Me too. If you guys would like to be a sponsor of Portia Takes on the Blackbelt, please just inbox me. We can definitely set it up for so many episodes. I think this current run, I try not to do, because I want to be clear on this, I try not to do so many commercials episode. You have so many episodes under what we agree upon. I just have to say that simply because of the fact I don't want to drown the episode out on commercials. So I only try to do 2 commercials for so many episodes, and then we move on to the next people. So if you're interested in it, just hit me up. We'll definitely get it going. Hey, Shaquilla again. I appreciate you tuning in. Miss Angela Crystal, she came in last time. Thank you for tuning in. Hey, Miss Sadie. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate it. All right, so let's get started with the conversation. So most people, let's just talk about your background so people can understand. Okay, we don't have to go that far.
No,
You're like, okay, now in 19, no, you but just about an overall gist of what you've done in your work so people can understand who you are.
Okay. As related to what we're talking about tonight, I'm an HIV, STD, pregnancy prevention person. Okay. I've been an HIV advocate for over, oh, my goodness, when you think about it, it's been almost 40 years.
Wow.
You know, I tell everybody, people become advocates because we have either been through it or we love someone who has.
Yes, absolutely.
So I became an HIV advocate almost 40 years ago, because that's when people from my neighborhood who I knew, who I loved, started dying.
Wow.
And people fail to realize that because nobody talks about the Black men that died.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody ever talks about the Black women that died.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I became an advocate then. I became paid to do the work in 2005.
Okay.
Actually in Houston. I became a HIV sister facilitator. So I was facilitating workshops for the intervention, the CDC intervention system. What happened is things just start to evolve. I came back to Cleveland and I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, everybody. I moved to Houston when I got divorced.
Okay.
I was there through Katrina, so I dealt with that whole thing where we had HIV positive people with no diagnosis because their records were gone.
Wow.
So we had people off meds. We were trying to get back on meds. We had people who were walking around pretending they weren't diagnosed. We had a lot of stuff going on. So when I came back to Cleveland, which people don't realize is pretty much the Bible Belt, I had been passing out condoms on the street, and I got to Cleveland, they were like, yeah, you know, you can't do that here. I was like, okay, I had to do it another way. I ran a faith-based HIV prevention awareness program.
Wow.
Called the Circle of Care. So my job was to create a network of churches that was HIV competent, compassionate, and referral ready. And how might I help yours?
That's right.
I ran that program for actually close to 12 years. And it was a matter of going into churches and going into the community and letting them know that this was more than just what they were considered deviant sex.
Mm-hmm.
This is a healthcare crisis.
Right.
This is a social justice crisis.
Yes.
And most of the things that hit our areas are because we don't want to talk about them.
Why are we? And hold on, you got a couple people. Maria, hey, Portia, Sheila, hey, hey, Miss Louise Lee, thank you for tuning in.
Yes, I'm the condom lady.
She's the condom lady. Appreciate you doing that.
Yes.
Why do you think? Because tonight, you know, usually when I talk about politics or whatever, I have a steady flow between about 40 people active, you know, watching and things like that. Tonight is a little low. Why do you think people are afraid to discuss sexual transmitted diseases, being that we know that society is sexually active?
Because we still think we have a moral compass. Literally, we want to have a public moral compass and we want to live in the dirt in private. And what happens is everybody pretends like nothing's happening.
Right.
Unfortunately, we're walking through a lot of mud, and our kids are getting stuck in it. One, we're pretending like we weren't having sex when we were teenagers.
That's true.
And if we weren't, half of our kids wouldn't be here. I mean, it's just the truth. One of the things that we tend to not discuss with our children is the fact that our children are us. Okay? If you was wilding out in high school, your children are probably wilding out in high school. And it's easy to just look at it and say, you know what, let me tell you where that goes wrong, so you don't fall in the same hole I was in.
Yeah. But
instead, we act like we was born, saved, and delivered. And unfortunately, it does not fare well for our children.
So when you think about not faring well with our children, we were talking on the phone, and you provided me with some information that was shocking. You start talking about STDs that we all know about, chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis. And so most people, when they hear those particular names, instantly they know that they can possibly get a shot or a pill and they're okay. But what you were telling me, that's not the case anymore. It's not
that is not necessarily the case. You're absolutely correct.
So can you tell the audience why that's not necessarily the case anymore?
Like any other illness or virus, you can only treat it so long before it becomes drug resistant.
Wow.
So when you have people who come back 2, 3, 4, 5 times, a lot of times that 5th time, that 4th time, that drug isn't working for them.
Wow.
And what you have to understand is if I pass something where the drug isn't working, it's not going to work for you either. Because the strain has shifted. It's a virus. Viruses evolve.
Okay.
Which is why we have so many strains of the flu. So a lot of people don't think that, oh, but this just, you can go get a shot of penicillin. What you going to do with the person who can't take penicillin? What most people don't understand is, so 30 years ago, we walked around, I hate that I can say this, 30 years ago, we walked around and told people, this is what syphilis looks like, and this is what gonorrhea looks like, and this is what chlamydia looks like. Well, guess what? The majority of people who have STDs have no symptoms whatsoever.
Wow.
And won't know they have one unless they're tested.
Tested, yeah. And then how do you get to a point to where you go get tested if you're not the type of individual that go to the doctor or go get tested? And you have to go get tested for those particular diseases. That's what you understand. I went to the doctor. Like, I had blood work done. They check for HIV, they check for all that stuff because it's for an insurance company. And so everything came back. You know what I mean? And so, but most people don't get those type of tests. They go to the doctor, they got a cold, they get treated for a cold. When they go get treated for a cold, they're not getting tested for STD. So,
and they think, yeah. The other thing is, your doctor makes a decision about who they think you are.
Yeah.
We forget our doctors are human. Prime example, I got married at 19.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I got married early. I got married at 19. And when I was pregnant with my child, doctors treated me totally different than a friend of mine who was pregnant at the same time and wasn't married. So they assumed things about her that they didn't assume about me because I had a ring on my hand. And the same thing happens on a regular basis. It's not just our kids. So let's make that clear too. It's not just my kids who have STDs.
I just been saying
my middle-aged and old folks.
What?
Okay.
What's the oldest age that you've seen in your profession that have come in and tested positive for STD?
The oldest person I helped diagnose actually was 77, and she had HIV.
Oh my gosh.
And people don't understand it. Most women who actually contracted HIV didn't do it out in the streets wilding out.
Okay.
A lot of them got it at home in the bed with somebody they thought they knew.
Wow. Wow. Now that's a conversation that like that, because I've heard about, nursing homes, people in nursing homes getting STDs.
All the time.
Yeah, all the time. And so, and I'm like, whoa, nursing home, wait a minute now. But it does happen. And I think a lot of times, like you said, most people think that a person that get STDs are just out here willy-nilly, but it doesn't go like that all the time.
No.
Okay, now to a person that's in a relationship or dating or married, when should they not use a condom?
Okay. I'm going to say something that's going to upset a whole lot of folks.
Okay.
When you shouldn't wear a condom when you're trying to get pregnant.
Wow. That's powerful.
And people don't understand. It has nothing to do about trust.
Okay.
We live in a different world today.
Yes, ma'am.
A very different world. And what we have to understand is condoms are non-negotiable for me. Condoms are something that you use for health.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't talk about the reasons you use condoms that have nothing to do with an STD. We forget that our sexual fluids are blood products.
Right.
So if you got married at 25 and both of y'all were perfectly healthy, nobody's taking any medication, and we trying to get pregnant, and we've been tested, we did all these things, then so be it. Go for it. Go for broke. But as soon as somebody starts taking medication, you need to put that condom on.
Wow.
Because you're sharing the medication.
Wow.
Because what did I just say? Your sexual fluids are blood products.
Blood problem. My God, you just taught me something.
So this is something that women may be able to really understand. You ever dated somebody, they started taking something, you ended up with a vaginal irritation? You go to the doctor gives you something for it, the doctor never asks you what happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's the medication.
Wow. Now you look, hey, if you guys watch, y'all can't leave this room tonight. This is the first time I've been on it. People ain't asking questions. I think people just shut. This is that interesting stuff. Before I ask the next question, I just want to say, I know some people may be watching like, why did she get someone all the way in Cleveland type of it? Because I didn't want anyone to think locally that I have somebody told me something about your business. All the way in Cleveland, okay? Cleveland, Ohio. She don't know the people that usually watch the show, so she didn't tell me nobody business or anything like that. So I don't want. That's why she's on the show to talk about it, so she won't get beat up because she work at the local health department and somebody said, well, she was on Portia show and I came in and she was talking about this. So I know she talked. None of that. So that's why she's here. You got a lot of wows. Lorinda said, wow. I asked you, I'm the same way. Wow, I didn't know this.
There's a lot of things we just don't talk about. And what we have to realize is you'd be surprised what our grandmothers and great-grandmothers talked about.
Yeah.
You know, when they used to tell us we wasn't supposed to be in the room. We don't have those conversations anymore. Yeah. There was a time when women, especially women of color, were cooperative and not competitive. So you tried to keep each other out the mud.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, well, she fell. We got to go back to throwing a rope.
Sucks to be you. Kay Green said, wow, I never thought about that. Me either, Kay. Hey, this is all new stuff. She said, we all learned the stuff today. I said, yes. I want to talk about sexual health, sexual conversations. And I think part of is having those type of conversations with the person that your partner, whether it's a child, you know what I mean? Whether it's someone that, say this is who you just kicking it with. These are conversations that you need to have. They are needed. She said the conversation is needed.
Yes.
Absolutely. But the conversation that we should have, I asked the question, when the last time you been to the doctor, when the last time you had an HIV test?
Yeah, but not just an HIV test.
No, I'm just saying. These are conversations that I have. And the last relationship I was in that was for a year. That was a constant conversation, and I think it's important that when we're talking or dating somebody, just like we're talking to get to know the individual, their health and the sexual health conversation needs to be a part of the conversation. And if that, I don't think it's something that should be shamed, like you said, or if the individual gets mad about you bringing it up, then maybe you should question the type of individual that Miss Rosa Rose says she's learning. Hey, Miss Geraldine Ward, thank you for tuning in. What is your advice to those individuals who feel like they've been in a relationship with someone? Man, we've been together 5 years, 3 years. We've been married for 18, 20 years. You know, these are type of conversations we don't even have. Or if my wife started asking me to use a condom, I may think she cheated, or she may think I'm cheating, and vice versa. How can people incorporate this type of conversation in situationships and relationships?
Okay. One, a friend of mine said, "You just too independent." Maybe I am, but what I've considered is this: if I am giving you my life,
mm-hmm.
because when I lay down with you, I am literally saying I trust you with my life.
You remember we talked about earlier prevention education?
Yeah.
One of the things that I asked in my dating violence course when I'm talking to young people, I asked them, do you trust your partner with your life? They be like, what? I'm trying. And I say, you ever been alone in a car with them? You trust them with your life? And if you had unprotected sex with them, you definitely trust them with your life.
Absolutely.
So but continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah.
I asked them these things because it's important. We act as though, so I work with adolescents and young adults at the moment. And what I tell them is sexual health is about your total health. You don't take your reproductive system out like a drawer to treat it if something's wrong. If you have a cold, your whole body has a cold.
Right.
If you get an STD, your whole body has an STD. It engages your immune system. Unfortunately, our kids today's immune system doesn't even look like ours did. They are on more medication.
Yep.
They don't eat the same foods we ate. Let's be real, the foods that we ate is not even available anymore. It looks the same, but it's not the same, and we all know that.
Taste the same.
It don't even taste the same. And so they really don't have the defenses that we had. And then they have a whole world that's telling them, go out, if it feels good, do it. Yeah. The other thing is it doesn't feel good for most of them, and they're still doing it.
That's true.
So, but when you're married, sometimes you've got to just use some common sense. So if everything is fine and you're not having any issues, so be it. If it's working for you, that's fine. What I tell women is this: the moment you go to the doctor because you've got an irritation and it comes back, you need to start questioning what's going on. Mm-hmm. And that does not mean he's stepping out.
Right.
You got to look at your entire life and say, what is different now?
Yeah.
Okay. When we're menopausal or postmenopausal, we know that everything changes in our bodies. When we start taking medication, we're also sharing it with him. Is he allergic to it? Do we even have those conversations where we take our medication out and say, this is what I'm taking. Does it interact with what you're taking? You know, we don't consider whether or not we're allergic to their medication. We will talk about the fact that you shouldn't kiss somebody who had peanuts if you're allergic to peanuts. But we won't talk about the fact that if something happened and he could have been a cut, but he had penicillin and you allergic to penicillin.
Right.
So the goal for me is to say, listen, how do we, I just read this. Absolutely. Angela, I'm going to address that because when I got married, you did.
Okay.
So today, a lot of things aren't happening. Okay. Half our kids don't get sex education in school at all. Mm-hmm. Even to just talk about sex, they don't even get health. Mm-hmm. Okay. I have a big issue with the fact that I have girls, I have actually grown women who don't even know they have a cervix.
What?
But you're using it. I mean, you're using everything there, and then you letting somebody. Okay, this is gonna sound. You letting somebody beat it up, and they shouldn't even be touching it.
You're right.
But you don't even know what it is.
Wow. Yes, ma'am.
You know, and I wish I could say, oh, but those are my 14, 15-year-old. I got kids as young as 13 having sex who've had multiple partners. And we don't talk about the fact that 1 in 3, 1 in 4, and 1 in 6.
Wow.
Okay. Who somebody touched at a much earlier age.
Yes, ma'am.
And once the barn door is open, people don't understand is the horses are already gone.
Yes, ma'am.
And then we label them instead of taking care of them. So when we also talk about STDs, we don't talk about whether or not the child, male or female, because our boys are molested just as much,
Absolutely.
who may have contracted something and nobody gonna test them because they're children.
Yeah.
But at the age of 13, a child in the state of Ohio anyway,
Yeah.
okay, can take control of their own sexual health.
Alabama.
They can go to the doctor.
Yeah, 14 in Alabama. Yeah.
Okay. So they're 13 in Ohio. They can have an HIV test. I used to do HIV tests in the community. They could come have a test without a parent.
Yeah.
They can get STD screened without a parent. They can get birth control without a parent.
In Alabama, what she's saying they can do at the age of 14 and up. They can even at age 14 and up they can do that. Lorinda said, going back to your service comment, she said I was pregnant when I learned about my service.
Okay,
and
because nobody tells you.
Yeah, nobody talks about it. Kate,
nobody talks about it. They act like
go ahead.
A woman's body is something. They don't act like it's sacred because they don't have a problem with abusing it.
Yeah,
but they act like it's something taboo.
Yeah,
that we can't talk about. They talk about men's bodies all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's penis this and penis that, but oh my goodness, let's not talk about a female's body. But hey, we are the source of life.
Yes, and they love to look at it, so they definitely don't want to talk about it. Now, Kay Green has a question for you. She said, "What if you are allergic to latex? What is your advice on
non-latex condoms?"
You said what now?
Non-latex condoms.
They do have non-latex condoms.
Yes. We do have non-latex condoms.
Go get you some non-latex condoms. Miss Roosevelt said everything I learned on my own. Wow.
Unfortunately, that's how most people do.
Wow.
And that's kind of sad because there's so many people with knowledge that don't share it. And sometimes they don't share it because they don't want to be seen as being somebody who knows too much about something that people think they shouldn't know anything about. And I want to get back to Angela. Angela, yes.
Okay.
A million years ago, if I was still married, I was married for 25 years. He's a wonderful man. We're still really good friends. But when we got married in 1980, you had to have a blood test.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You had to go downtown you had to go get your marriage license, and then you had to go to the health department and get your blood drawn. And then you had to wait. Back then it took almost 2 weeks to get your blood work back because we're talking about almost 40 years.
Yeah.
40 years ago.
Well, they speed up too much now.
And once your blood work came back, if you didn't have a congenital disease, if you didn't have any STDs, and as I recall, in 1980, they were not testing for HIV. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You could go back and pick up your paperwork, take it back down to vital statistics, and they would give you your marriage license so you could go get married.
Wow.
My daughter's been married 6 years. I think it's 6 years. She called me on the phone. Her and my son-in-law took off work. She called me on the phone, said, "Mommy, are you near your computer?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Pull up this thing. I need you to fill out my marriage license." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Fill out my marriage license. We're on our way down to the courthouse to pick it up." all, all they had to do was fill it in, me hit submit, and pay $50, pick it up, and go on to get married.
Oh, that's how Alabama is now, yeah.
Okay. And I was thinking to myself, it's that easy.
Back then, they want to know everything. Give me a house sample.
Yeah, back then they wanted everything to be done. So it was so important back then that we knew what was going on. Today, I tell girls, I said, "Hey, do you even know who his people are?"
Yeah.
You know, we used to think, parents used to tell you, "Do you know who their folks are?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of diseases they got?"
That's true.
And today, nobody asks those questions.
Tamika Edwards says they have water-based lube. Is that safe? Is that safe?
Water-based lube?
Yeah.
Yes. Water-based lube is good. It depends on what you want. Okay. Water-based lube is good for some of us who are a little bit more aged. Silicone is sometimes better.
Okay.
It's a silkier feel.
Okay. Okay.
I tell people, go to the store, check them out, see what you like. It is so important. Okay. The whole thing is, I want people to be healthy, but I also want you to have a healthy sex life. Because don't nobody tell women, but when you have a healthy sex life, you also have a better heart.
Yes, ma'am.
Physically.
Do you think that when you're thinking about that, you know, people think about STDs, they get nervous and stuff, and when you talk about the difference, because that really, I was telling people about it, I was like, and she was telling me that, you know, people get sexually transmitted diseases of the same kind, and they can't get a cure for it, you know, so they're walking around with like herpes, and, you know, for the rest of their life, because the strain has gotten stronger simply because they keep contracting it. What what do you say to Marie Coco comment? What do you say to those individuals who are in abusive relationships where they're getting, I know someone whose lover gave them an STD and keep giving it to them because they're in an abusive relationship. And so
happens all the time.
So what do you say to that individual? They had to keep going to the doctor. And those things like that, simply because they are trapped in a relationship that are physically hurting them by violent as well as sexually. So what do you say to that individual on them feeling bad and them feeling depressed and, you know, and going through those emotions, and also what is the best option for them for treatment?
That is really scary. Because that puts me in a so that puts me in that catch-22 piece.
Okay.
Because I'm also a victim's advocate. And as a victim advocate, you know, we can't tell them what to do.
No, it is your decision. I can't suggest.
All we can do is put things on the table.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
What I started doing about, I think it's probably been about 5-6 years, it started helping people with safety stay plans. There's some women who aren't going to leave from whatever reason. And a lot of times, as we know, that when a woman leaves, she is at the most risk of being killed.
8 out of 10.
So sometimes you have to give them some tools to stay. We already know that she can't use a condom. That's probably very apparent. One of the things that has happened in the past is that there is partner treatment.
Okay.
You hope that the partner comes with her to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the partner comes with her, I'm willing to talk to the partner.
Right.
And I'm talking to the partner generally with her permission. without blaming him sometimes, where it's got to be like, we found out that there's this thing that needs to be taken care of that she has, and we want to make sure you're not exposed.
Gotcha. I got you. So that's the way you do it, you guys. Because and most of the time in those situations, that individual will, because of the control factor, they will go to the doctor with them, and that'll give you an opportunity to not feel that shame and feel that blame. And also both of you can get the treatment, so you can hopefully get rid of the problem. Coco has a comment, because I want to bring up this because this was inboxed to me, and I had a question about that. She said water-based lubricant is great. Silicone is best when using toys. All right, so the toy situation.
Okay.
Coco has a side gig. She does. She's a connoisseur in that area. As it relates to toys.
Does she say? Is she a salesperson?
She's a salesperson.
Okay. She's
a salesperson. And so one of the things that someone inboxed to me earlier today, because they wanted to, hey Miss Margaret, hey Miss Renee, they wanted to ask, but they said they didn't want to ask on camera because they'll watch while we got them. And she said, and let me get the question right. let me get the question right, because I've been saving it for this time. She said, hey Portia, can you possibly ask her, can a person contract an STD by using a toy?
Yes.
Okay.
And let me tell you why. Ms. Thomas could probably vouch for this. They don't clean them properly.
And that's what Ms. Lorinda just asked. How do you clean the toy?
They don't properly clean them. The other thing is, not only do they not properly clean them, but we have, let me, how do I say this without it? Okay, there's no easy way to put it. Guys have what they used to call circle jerks. They did. Teenage boys think they can,
Yeah.
It is, there are women who have toy parties, and not the kind that she has. Yeah. And sometimes they will share them. You'd be surprised what I've been exposed to. People tell me they will share them, and they're not. There's two things about that. One, they're sharing them and they're not sleeving them.
Okay, explain sleeving.
They're not using them. They're not putting condoms on. Okay. You sharing a toy, you should need to be putting a condom on it.
Okay.
Because now that's not your personal toy. That's community toy.
Okay.
Two, they don't clean them properly. I'm sure that she can tell you that they're not buying the cleaner. I got people telling me they're using dishwashing liquid. They putting them in the washing machine, the dishwasher. It's crazy. People just and then they don't keep them from getting. There's all kinds of things. What I tell people is this. What I tell them is this: if you have a toy, make sure you clean it properly.
You got a lot of OMG. I'm sorry, you got a lot of OMG.
I know.
A lot of guys. People said, oh no, in that.
Yes. See, this is they need to buy the cleaner. The other thing is, what I recommend for them is this. Once you have them cleaned, put them, if you don't have a case for them, put them in a zip, make sure they're thoroughly dried, and then put them in a Ziploc bag.
She said dishwasher.
Yeah, you'd be surprised what people do.
Oh my God.
And then put them in a Ziploc bag so that they don't pick up dirt or dust or whatever.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, because I know people who say, I got my little bag of tricks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? Well, are they stored? Are they separated? Are they dry? Are they everything? And they're like, throw it in the bag. Well, that's not clean or safe for you.
And And for those of you, okay, I don't want anybody to feel bad. For those of you who I'm not laughing at, I'm laughing because these are conversations that we don't have publicly. You know what I mean?
We should.
And we should, and it shouldn't be uncomfortable for us to have those particular type of conversations. Coco said with her business, that's why they strongly recommend their cleaner with all their products.
Absolutely.
So, Morgan said, but the young lady who asked that question.
But like I tell people, the person who's selling it is trying to tell you the truth, and y'all trying to be cheap. No, you can't be. Because they'll buy the toy, and I'm sure she'll tell you they'll buy the toy and won't buy the cleanser.
Right. And they all play a part in your sexual health.
It's about your sexual health. And people say, oh, so you recommend people using toys. I think people should do whatever they intend to do, but they should do it safely.
Right.
And what I tell people is this: at least with a toy, you know the person you with loves you.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. And you want it in their mouth. Okay. Listen. That mine are. I don't know what part was
Yay.
that. Maria said, "Oh my gosh." Okay. If you,
I'll tell you tomorrow.
Okay, she's gonna tell you tomorrow. She'll tell you tomorrow at work, Maria. We're gonna leave that alone. Samantha said that we talked about that earlier, Sam. I bet you she was at the ballpark because she had her kids are travel balls year round. She said need to teach it in school. Kids know, and that's another conversation that I want to talk on because we don't have that long. It's always the good shows that we don't have that long with. But I wanted to talk about how to have these type of conversations with your kids, and because even though you think, you know, I'm not talking to my kid, I don't think they're old enough now. They're getting exposed to stuff at school. I remember this lady, I never forget. I met in Sand Mountain, and she wasn't sexually assaulted, but she was exposed to it by a neighbor who was showing her the magazine porn. And so she was exposed to it at a very, very young age, even though her parents never talked to her about it. Someone else exposed her to it. So how can parents talk to their kids that are adolescents, you know, and then also even their college age kids about having I mean, we all want them to wait until they get married. We all want that. You know what I mean? That's the overall goal, to say wait to get married. But the reality of it, a lot of them, I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of them are not making that decision. So because of that, you know, we're having these type of discussions. So what advice could you give to parents to start having these type of conversations and willing in to their kids?
Sexual education and sexual health starts at birth. You can't wait until they're in high school or junior high school or elementary school, actually, unfortunately, because it doesn't start with those things. It starts with simple things like, especially because our kids go to daycare, even before then. Because I don't mind exposing myself because I do it in public all the time. What we have to start with is when our kids are being left with anybody, we got to stop telling them to do what they're told. We've got to start telling them that they need to do what they know they're supposed to do. Yes, act the way you're supposed to act. But when we tell our kids to do what they're told, which is how I was molested, that's tend to what we do. You do, especially when you're a small child. What we have to do is give them boundaries and give them possession of their selves and their persons. Let's start with that. That when you tell people, you can't tell them that when they don't want to kiss grandma or kiss auntie or kiss you, they have to.
I preach that all the time. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you got to give them the right to have boundaries with their own bodies. And when they start developing boundaries with their own bodies, they're more apt to tell you if somebody crosses that line.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you have to tell them the correct names for their body parts.
Yes.
Okay, because then if something does happen, they can tell somebody what happened.
Yes.
And as they become more comfortable, and you are become more comfortable with having conversations with them, so that before they start going through puberty, you're having new conversations. Because things are coming up all the time. When the girl down the street gets pregnant, they're gonna ask a question, because kids do. You know, if your kids are small enough that you get pregnant again, give them some answers. But what I tell parents is, don't give your kid more answers than they ask for.
Right, right.
Okay? Because kids will ask you things, and sometimes we give them more than they ask for.
I be in school sometimes and I have to say, this is enough, okay? Because they be gone. If you let them act, baby,
They will.
I'll be like, look, I'll get to you the next time I come, because some of them court I had to go look up. Like, I'm be
They will ask.
out.
If you make it comfortable for them to ask, they will ask.
I'm telling you.
And then give them good advice.
Yes.
Okay? We can't always, and I tell people, especially women of color, and I'm not just talking about black women, I'm talking about my black women, my brown women, my yellow women, my
Yes.
women of color. We tend to look at our children and tell them just no.
Yeah.
And what we have to say is, these are the things that'll be better for your life, and give them reasons why. And we can't always beat them up with religion.
No.
And if we're honest about it and we talk about it and we start reading the Bible with them, we'll have to answer those questions in the Bible too. As we know, the Bible is not there's a whole lot of sex going on in the Bible. But we skip over that with our children, and then they want to ask questions. So we have to just give them answers and then make it safe. Tell them that, give them stuff like, and tell them condoms are non-negotiable, and tell them why. But one of the things we have to realize is when our children have a plan for their life, they tend not to have a whole lot of plans in the street.
Mm-hmm.
They make different decisions based on what they want. And sometimes that decision doesn't mean they're not having sex, but it means they're making better sexual choices.
Correct. That's what we want.
We want them to make good sexual and healthy sexual choices. As I tell my kids at the clinic, I would like to wrap them all up in bubble wrap and not let them go until they have a brain that makes sense.
Yes, ma'am.
Until they find somebody who's going to love them and nurture them, but I can't. So in the meantime, condoms are non-negotiable.
All right, so you got a lot of comments. Let's catch up. So you have some.
Oh, come on, let's do this.
Okay. She said, yeah, do what they are told is harmful and can be traumatic.
Yes.
Kay Green said, yes, I'm already talking to my 3-year-old about that and to let me know if anyone touched him. Good job. Wonder Faye Kennedy says, yes, it begins at birth. I've been telling my baby since he's been talking, and his doctor educates him also.
Yes.
Lee, I have a daycare, and a child 4 years old have told me some things about sex. Wow. Yes. And that means someone has exposed them.
Absolutely.
Oh, she spell and check her comment. Okay. I didn't even know. Said it is so much better to be honest with them. Agree to not use pet names for female and male parts.
Yes.
And Samantha comes back and says, amen, honesty. I think the overall conversation is definitely something that should happen. And when I do good touch, bad touch, and that goes back to a comment that Ms. Louise talked about. You know, when I did pre-K, and I'm not going to name the school, but when I did pre-K school, and I'm telling the kids that what I'm telling them, you know, somebody's not supposed to be doing to them, and then at the end of the class, they're telling me that their uncle is doing, their cousin has done it, my brother does that, you know what I mean? And the counselor is over in the corner crying, and I'm like, come on now. But those things are actually happening, and I think it's important that we have to talk about that when you have kindergarten students kissing, 2 girls kissing because they mommy kiss a girl, and it's okay, you know, if that's what you want to teach your child. But just know these kids are mimicking what it is that they're seeing, whatever they're seeing.
Children
Seeing.
Learn what they live and not what they're told.
Absolutely. And Tamika said, I was so scared for my boys at one point and wanted to buy them a coochie in a can.
Yeah, and they exist.
Tamika,
the thing is they really exist.
Oh my God.
Okay.
That definitely took me out for the night. I tell
They really exist.
I
They exist.
took me out for the night. When we thinking about sexual health, we got 11 minutes. We thinking about this show went by so fast. This is so good.
It did. I appreciated it too. Thank you.
Minutes and we've gone a whole hour, so hey, it's good. When you think about sexual health, period, in our older community, because I have a lot of people.
Well, before we get to that, let me ask one thing so that people understand it, because nobody talks about this. Yeah, so, ladies, if you're not, and this is one of those things that's at advertisement. If you're not Kegel, Kegeling is your friend. It is not about tightening up your vaginal area. It's about keeping that pelvic floor tight so that you aren't leaking and having to wear necks. As we all these new wonderful leak-proof underwear, why don't we just come out and say they're just prettier pull-ups? And it comes from, a lot of times people don't understand it. It can come from one, giving birth, but it can also come from having a little bit of prolapse. So stuff is starting to drop. Do not let anybody hit your cervix. There is no gold up in those heels, ladies. He should not be drilling. And I'm because it causes damage to us.
Yes.
And nobody tells us this. And then what I have to tell people, these young girls, is, honey, you're only this big. You're only this long.
Yeah.
How you talking about you need 12 inches? You ain't got 12 inches. You ain't got 12 inches to put it.
So why are you asking for something that's going to hurt you in the long run?
Right. But I can tell you why they're asking.
Yeah.
Because it's the physical feeling of the contact.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with his penis. It has to do with his body rubbing against your clitoris.
They got to talk something in the night, ladies. And fellas, I guess they you must have heard a couple of fellas feeling because it got low again. Okay.
But it's something they need to know.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
ma'am.
I
mean, because the bottom line is, if we have the real conversation, we already know that the nerve endings are in the head of the penis, just like it's in the tip of the clitoris, because they're basically the same thing.
All right. Angela says, it's just so easy to say pocketbook, but if anything happens, predators may say pocketbook. I constantly let my 6-year-old know she has a vagina. Same for my 11-year-old son, he has a penis, not anything else.
Absolutely.
Angela also says, also those STDs can stop you from ever having kids.
Ever having kids. They can absolutely destroy your reproductive system.
Samantha Kelly said, 12 inches, my Lord, and showed it. And I'm still weak, Sam, at pretty pull-ups. I'm still weak at pretty pull-ups. So,
okay, but that's the truth. That's all they are.
I wonder, I have a lot of older people. I'm sorry.
Yes,
a lot of okay, that is 60 or 50, 55, 60, 55 and up, who watch my show every week. And they're very faithful women, and you know, some are widows. Some are single, some are still dating, you know, and things like that. And you talked about shortly about the number of individuals in that age group who do contract STDs.
Yeah.
And what about women in you guys' age group? Because you was like me, about having that sexual health and also being comfortable with that conversation.
A lot of them aren't comfortable with that conversation. Yes.
You talk about paper cuts hurt too, yeah.
Yes. What happens is this. After a woman gets a certain age, a lot of times they don't mind sharing men. There's a shortage of them. I'm not gonna lie, we already know it.
Yeah.
There's a shortage of men, especially over the age of 60. And a lot of times there's a shortage of men because our men over 60 want somebody 30. And we don't talk about why they want them. it's because they're still ovulating and they can still smell them. We forget we're mammals.
Right.
So what happens is as we go through menopause, that scent that we give out when we're ovulating dissipates. But that 23-year-old still has it. So when she walks by him and she's ovulating, he's going to turn his head because he can still smell her.
Wow.
We've got to remember we're mammals. So what happens is this. There's a reason the Bible says that you're supposed to love him, he's supposed to fall in love with you in his youth so that you have his heart. Because if you have his heart in your youth, you generally have it in your old age. So there's things that go with stuff that people don't think about that rolls together. So what happens is when you get older, they don't mind sharing, and they tend to, which is what happens in nursing homes and what happens in senior living situations. And because they've gotten used to not using condoms, and they have a false belief that because they are a certain age, they're safe. A lot of times they're just passing them back and forth because they don't go to the doctor to get checked for. When they walk into the doctor, my hair is gray. I walk into the doctor's not going to ask me if I'm having sex with anybody. Okay. Now, this is what is really crazy. If I put on a darker wig, they'll ask me.
Wow.
It's all about perception.
And most people,
59 in 2 weeks.
And most older people, if their doctor don't bring it up, they're not going to bring it up.
If their doctor doesn't bring it up, they don't bring it up. Because most doctors, for some reason, even if they're older and having sex, think that their patients who are their age aren't having sex.
Yep. And they be having sex at old age.
They still listen. I have conversations with my older people, and I'm telling them that when you were younger, whips and chains may have excited you, but you can't play that game now. Now they'll break your bones.
And hurt yourself. I tell younger people, if you are gonna try to do that type of stuff, you better make sure the other one into it. Otherwise, you going to jail for torture trying to do all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yolanda has a question. She said, would that be the same as pheromones?
Yes, those are pheromones.
Okay.
Those are pheromones.
Patricia Rohn said, I must be slow because I've never heard the reference of. I've heard people call your pocketbook. I've heard people say,
yeah, I've heard that for forever.
Miss Geraldine Ward said, I must be slow. I don't know what you slow about. Miss Geraldine. Chris said, what? I almost missed this show. You should have been here from the beginning. Angela said, Patricia. Oh, she's answering Patricia. She said, Patricia, not sure, but I've heard it from a child on up. Like, close your legs. You don't want people to see your pocketbook example. Little girls keep pocketbooks and keep close because you have money in their sort of analogy. Oh, yeah, said, yeah, Wilson Child. Look, y'all let me tell you something, because we got to go. I went to a national LGBTQ conference. Now, I'm there, so I'm going to my little sessions and stuff. And so I met, when you go to conferences, you have conference friends. You have people that you meet at conference, and after the second day, you get conference buddies. And so they were like, what class you going to now? And I told them, they was like, why are you going to all these conservative classes? Because they had different types of classes. And they were like, come on, go to this class with us. So I was like, no, I don't think so. I'm just going to go on to the next class. Come on, Portia, just one class, just one class. So it was the class where they do the rope stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, and I didn't realize, I'm just thinking you just tie people up, but you really can kill people in that situation.
You have to have escape mechanism.
Yeah, words and all that. And so that's why I started telling young people, I said, hey, you guys can't be doing this stuff that you be saying other people do because you ain't equipped or trained to do that.
You gotta be trained to do that stuff.
That stuff is dangerous. So, but I just had to throw that in there. Oh, you got a couple of comments. Oh, hey, Miss Shirley Shepherd, thank you for tuning in. We get ready to close out now. Thanks for the information. We got to get Miss Sheila back. Miss Sheila, I have truly enjoyed this conversation.
I have enjoyed being here. We could be dangerous together.
Yeah, that's what I said. We got to bring her back for part 2 of, and I think we need to talk about, just name this show Sexual Education. And I think that'll grab the audience a little bit more, because people saw STDs tonight, and I haven't even seen people that tune in every week. So
that's okay.
That's okay though. But we're gonna talk about sexual education. Maybe bring Coco in, and as she talk about, bringing in that type of stuff and the safe way to bring that type of stuff in your life. Chris said,
Christopher.
Oh my gosh. My older male friend said it don't stay.
Okay, this is when you move to female condoms.
Okay.
So we'll have there's a whole nother conversation to go with that, because there's female condoms. They don't have to put a condom on. They just have to go inside the female condom.
Okay.
So there's ways to do that. Also, in ways, real quick, men who want to be able to have an erection when they get older.
Yes.
They need to stop smoking weed. They need to eat more vegetables. It's all about blood flow.
Because Viagra gonna kill
health. Yeah, but it's all about health. If your arteries and vessels are clogged, the blood doesn't flow. And erections are only about blood flow. Yeah, that's why older men used to 20, 30, well, more than that, I guess 75 or 80 years ago, men were having babies with people when they was in their 80s, because they ate vegetables and they ate fruit. They wasn't eating McDonald's and Popeyes.
Like Dr. Saban, he had it right before he died. He had his baby, so and he was in his 80s. So, we're definitely gonna do part 2. Sam says, "Thank you, love this segment. Yes, part 2. We will." Shaquilla said, "A very nice show tonight. I learned a lot tonight. Good." Miss Rosa Rose said, "Enjoyed your shows. Thank you so much." Hello, Miss Joyce Jones. Hello, everyone. Lorinda, I was wondering where you went, Lorinda, because we had some funny moments and you didn't come in. My phone died, bummer. I learned a lot. I tried to talk with my young adults. Miss Patricia, we ran out of time. Female condom. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. All right, so in July, we're going to bring Miss Sheila back, and we're going to have a part 2, and we're going to cover some things that we missed this show. Because most of the time, the conversation be getting too good. We got to break this thing up. So we're gonna come back and have this discussion. We're gonna talk to the men about sexual health. And talk about eating right and Viagra, the do's and don'ts, how to maintain a long sex life past a certain age, a healthy sex life past a certain age, and then also we're gonna talk to Coco. I'm gonna get my girl Coco to come on. That's the one that has the business with the sexual toys.
Okay.
Get her to come on with you, and we're gonna talk about that, and you guys can share from back and forth about that as well. So we're excited about that, and so we would definitely get that conversation going. And so Miss Geraldine Ward said, "I learned a lot tonight." I'm glad. We're glad.
We're happy.
So make sure you guys share this video. Please stay tuned. Just real quick, Miss Sheila, do you have any final things that you would like to say before we go?
I truly enjoyed myself tonight. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
And I'm looking forward to coming back.
Okay. All right. So if anybody would like to reach to reach you, where can they where can they get in touch with you?
Sheila Sullivan 61 at Gmail.
61 at Gmail. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of the screen so
you
can see it. So we're gonna.
Our website still needs some. Okay, my name is spelled wrong.
Let me get it back.
Okay. So it's Sheila.
Okay.
That's all.
All right. That's all.
You're gonna reverse, the I and the L. There you go.
All right.
Okay. Reach out to me. I'm trying to. I used to do a small YouTube. I just didn't finish it. So So I have my own company is passing knowledge, changing legacies, one woman, one thought at a time.
Okay.
If you change the way a woman thinks, you change the decision she makes and the legacy she leaves behind her. And it's all about doing good choices.
Absolutely. All right. So you guys, if you want to get in touch with Miss Shelia, these questions that you inbox me, I did get just one question inbox. So, but if you have any questions that you didn't feel comfortable asking as you watch tonight's show, even individual who came in late, who backing up and watching it, you can hit her up on her email. But we're gonna have her back in July for part 2. And finish this conversation on sexual education and sexual health. And that is definitely so important for all of us to learn.
From Montgomery to Hill, Green County and Perry, Portia taking on the Blackbelt, and she ain't scared. Marengo County, something county, Will, Cox, and Barbara.